Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Hey, it's Monday. Had a great Monday. Hope you guys did too. Hope everybody had a good weekend. It's always nice to start the week off on a positive, so it's nice to get through the day with no complaints. Easy sailing, which is good. So here we are again. As you can see, channel star or co-star, depending on who you ask. Um, Starting to think about the menu for this evening, and I had a craving for a beef stroganoff, so homemade beef stroganoff. So that's what we're going to do. What are we working with? Well, we've got a New York strip. We're going to cut that up, medallions, little beef medallions. We're going to brown those. We've got some butter and some cream and broth. We're going to mix that all together, a little sour cream in there. It's going to be good. Onions, mushrooms. Oh boy, it's going to be great. What a treat for a Monday, right? Before we're doing that, as you can see, we're just taking the load off, relaxing a bit, and when I bring you guys back, I will show you what we're working with. In the meantime, as always, thank you for joining me here again, checking out the recipes. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm glad I can share it with you. So I'm very much appreciative that you're all coming back to check it out. Okay, like I said, when I bring you back, I'll show you what we're working with. And we are back. So you can see front and center, the star of our show there is we've got some New York strip. And that's a good cut of meat for this type of dish. Has some marbling in there. You're going to get some of that fat melting down. It's going to add a lot of flavor. So I think that's going to work good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut those into medallions, so kind of little square circles. Should work out pretty good. Um, to the left there, we've got some nice looking mushrooms. I have rinsed those mushrooms and then dried them. You do not want to work with wet mushrooms. Back there, we got some garlic and onions. We're going to saute those with those mushrooms. It'll be really tasty. Of course, there's a bottle of wine right there. That always goes good with some steak. We're going to use that to deglaze the pan, and well, don't want to let it go to waste. So you can imagine what we'll do with the rest of that. Back there, we got some beef stock and some half and half, some butter. Of course, we've got some black pepper, salt, and herbs de Provence. I find that this mix of herbs works extremely well with any kind of beef dish or stew, stroganoff, whatever you're making. Should work out pretty good. Oops, and almost forgot. Sour cream. Sour cream also goes in this dish, and so that's not out here, but that is an important factor, so that's also going to go in there. You can see up on the upper right there, we've got some Italian parsley. I think you guys probably heard me before mention this, but great way to save your herbs. As you can see over there, I've got that parsley. I cut the bottoms of the stems, put it in a glass of water, save that little plastic bag you get from the grocery store. Boom, you can save your herbs for about 2 weeks in the refrigerator. Great way to prolong those, save yourself some money, and works really well. Finally, we've got a little olive oil. We're going to be using that as well. When I bring you guys back, we are going to start to brown those medallions of steak, and I'll show you how we do that. And we are back. So we've got our butter and olive oil starting there. We're going to put small batches of the meat in at a time. Because what we're trying to achieve here is not 100% cook on this beef. We want to get some color on there, some nice brown color. And so if you put too much in at one time, it doesn't work. So just going to take your time with it. We're not trying to cook this 100%. We want to cook it about maybe a minute or so on each side. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep it nice and rare in the middle, tender or brown on the outside. It'll finish its cook and remain more tender in the sauce if you do it this way. So it's a better way to do it. And wanted to mention, I got a little bit ahead of myself when I was showing you guys the ingredients. I didn't mention there was some fusilli pasta in the back. Oftentimes, I think it's, I can't think of the name of the traditional pasta that people use. However, fusilli looked good to me. Oh, egg noodles is what a lot of times people use. But fusilli looked better to me, so that's what we're going to go with. Also, I forgot to mention we put a little bit of Dijon mustard and Worcestershire sauce in this as well. That works really, Worcestershire sauce especially works really good in beef dishes. And wanted to mention that. That'll definitely go in here, and I'll show you once that goes in. But right now, what I'm going to work on is browning this meat on both sides. Once I'm done with that, I'll bring you guys back for the next step. And we are back. So I've got all of the meat brown. So now we're going to move to the next step here, which is we're going to add a little bit more butter in there. Get that cut down. While that butter is melting, we're going to put our shallots in. And I think I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I think a lot of times people with this recipe will use more of like a white or yellow onion. I really prefer the taste of shallots over those. I think that it's more delicate flavor. It works really well with the beef. And so that's why I chose that. So we're going to cook those down for maybe, I don't know, let's say a few minutes. Once those are cooked down, I'm going to add in my garlic. With garlic, you don't want to add that in until you're about done with your sauteing because it has a propensity to burn. And so that's why we do that. But as you can see, these shallots will cook down pretty quickly. Um, like I said, let those onions cook down. We'll get those with that garlic in there, and then we're going to get those mushrooms in there. We're going to let all of that saute up, and then I will bring you guys back to show you how we make our sauce. Okay, shallots have cooked down. We're going to add our garlic now. Get all that good stuff in there. Woo! And smell-o-vision, like I always say, would be a YouTube invention that they should come up with because this smells fantastic. That garlic and butter and onions, we're going to start putting our mushrooms in there. Those guys in there. You can see I just roughly chopped the mushrooms. We'll cook those down a little bit. I've got this on about a medium heat, medium to low heat at this point. I don't want my onions to get too brown. You can see we're developing a really nice fond on the bottom there. That's what that wine is going to be for. We're going to deglaze this pan. But before I do that, I forgot to mention to you, I am kind of forgetful today when it comes to the ingredients. What this is going to do here is we've got that butter in there. We're going to let this cook down a bit. But then we are going to create a roux, essentially. We're going to throw some flour in there, let that flour taste cook out. Then we're going to come back with the broth. Well, first we're going to deglaze with the wine, then we'll come back with that broth. Let that kind of cook a little bit. We're going to put the half and half in there, our other spices. It's going to be very tasty. So I will bring you guys back once it's time to move on to the next step. Okay, our mushrooms and garlic and onions or shallots have been cooking a little while, sauteing in this butter. Now the next step is we're going to add some flour here. How much? Well, about that much. So let's see how that does for us. And like I think I've mentioned before, I know I've mentioned before, but we want to let that flour taste cook out of there in any kind of sauce that you prepare like this. So we're going to let that kind of cook out. Maybe lower that temperature just a tad there. So we'll be good once we deglaze, which will be the next step. So we've got that red wine, and I'm looking forward to tasting some of that here in a bit as well. All right, you can see we got a lot of that flour sticking, which is, it's actually okay because what's going to happen is when we put that wine down on that, it's going to release all of that off the bottom, which is going to be wonderful in the stroganoff. So but we definitely don't want it to burn, so you got to kind of keep moving things around here. That probably is about right. So let's deglaze here. About that much. Keep that going. Get all that off the bottom. It's all good stuff. Okay. Keep that going. Now, our next ingredient, now that that's kind of starting to set up, we've got our beef broth, which we'll slowly start adding in there. All right. Nice and slow. We can probably raise our temperature back up a bit. See how we want this. You can make it as thick or as thin as you want for your own sauce. I like it kind of thick. I mean, I like it pretty medium thick, kind of the consistency of just a little bit above a gravy. It's a little bit thicker than that. So do that. And as that comes up to temperature, it's definitely going to start thickening it up. But oh my gosh, the smell of that wine and the onions and mushrooms and that broth. Oh boy, this is going to be tasty. So let's put that much in and see what that does for us. And when I bring you guys back, I will start adding in some of those other ingredients. So we've got our sauce base simmering away, and that looks pretty good. Now we want to add in some of that half and half. So maybe like about a half cup or so. and about that much here. So we'll start thickening that up. We have that on a low simmer. We don't want that milk to curdle there, of course, so we want that to just be on a low, like I said, a low simmer at this point. Well, that's doing that. We've got some Dijon mustard here. So we're going to put that in here. Or stone ground mustard is actually what I have available today. So that's going to go in there. And then, of course, we've got our Worcestershire sauce. So that's going to go in there like that. Let's get some spice on this. So we got our pepper over here. Let's get some of that in there. That's about right. And we've got our herbes de Provence. Get some of that in there. That goes really well. Like I said, any kind of beef dish works pretty well. So want that about that much. You go easy on the salt as always, because you just never know. So that's about good for right now. Let's incorporate all that into the sauce. Okay. Bring that back up to temperature. Ooh, and it smells fantastic. So what we're going to do is once the meat goes back in, we're going to start getting our pasta water ready for that fusilli, which is going to go in there with that. Hopefully it's going to taste very yummy. For our last ingredient, we've got our sour cream. Now what we have to do with that is you do not want to put that sour cream right into that hot liquid. You want to temper that. So what that means is we're going to put a little bit of this warm liquid into here and slowly bring that up to temperature. All right? Because if you put it all in there at once, it's going to separate. And that's not going to be what you want. So we want to slowly bring this up to temperature, and then we will add it into that stroganoff. Like that. All right? Take your time with it. Don't rush. Whenever you rush cooking, it does not go well. So a little bit more. All right. But that tang of that sour cream in this dish is going to really, really come out, and it's going to be good. That's about right. It's right there. Looks good. Let's get that incorporated as well. I don't think we need that anymore. Get that out of the way. All right. Woo, boy. Now you're starting to see that classic stroganoff color, which is that kind of beige color, which is going to be very good. So we're going to keep this on low, bring that back up to temperature, and then we will add our meat. So I'll bring you guys back in a bit. Now we are going to put our meat in there. As you can see, we ended up with a beautiful brown and all that, but yet it's not cooked all the way through right now. What that's going to do is that's going to finish cooking in that sauce, which is going to leave you with a very, very tender product, which is what we want. Let's get the rest of it. Of course, you got all that juice in there, which you want in there too. That's going to add a lot more flavor. So let's just leave it. We're going to leave this on a low, maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Just very, very low, just a nice low simmer. Give that a taste yourself to see if you might need some more salt. If that's something you want, I gave it a little taste and added a little bit more Worcestershire. That's what I felt like today. So, but other than that, it's great. So I'm going to let all these flavors come together and meld. When I bring you guys back, I will show you what this looks like for final product. So that is what we ended up with. You can see we've got the fusilli pasta down there. We've got some of the stroganoff on top. There's a little bit of Italian parsley on the top. Some people like a little bit of chopped green onion. I thought maybe the parsley would work well. So it looks really good. It smells really good. But like I said, you never know till that big bite. So when I come back, we'll check it out and see what we ended up with. So, looks good, smells good, but let's see what we ended up with here. So we got some of this fusilli pasta here. We got the sauce from the stroganoff. Let's get a little bit of everything. Go for a bite here. Some mushrooms. It's great. The steak turned out really tender. It's a good contrast between the sauce and the pasta and the meat. Really good. I have a little of that parsley on the top. You get a little bit of that. It's really good. It's just a perfect kind of a winter meal. You know, turned out perfect. Really good. Mm. Mm. So, highly recommend you guys give this recipe a shot. Let me know what you think. As always, thank you for my subscribers, but anybody that has not yet, please subscribe, hit that like button, and get those reminders. So, we'll see you guys in the next one.